I just watched some video and I got a rant. I don't know if I'm gonna put a speed paint over top of this or not later. I got a good position in here. So, the gist was like, what women want. And the guy making the video, while he did mention which one was it? Not the Fred and Fish? Fresh and Fish podcast. Not fish, oh my god! Fresh and Fit podcast. Holy Christ. And they mentioned some other video, like some other podcast. It's the same kind of like gotcha misogyny. But beside that, it was actually not that bad of a video, all things considered. But it's just a huge overgeneralization. First of all, I mean, yeah, you can make videos and say what women want. It's never gonna apply to every woman. I think everybody's gonna fucking know this. We are individuals. Some people are weird and have kinks. Some people are more dom. Some people are more fucking femme. Some people are more masculine. Some people are more sub. Some people, people are weirdos, right? We like what we like, and it's often very, very strange stuff. But oftentimes about this sort of social norm, like if you talk to an AI, like a man AI that's supposed to like turn you on as a woman, it's gonna get into this like domineering kind of authoritarian type mindset pretty quickly, because it's what a lot of like dark romance novels or even normal romance novels go into. And that's the kind of thing that they're trained on, and it's what a lot of women often fantasize about. And you could make a case that it's like the fifth season of Netflix's You, where it's like the fantasy of a man like you is how we cope with the reality of a man like you thing, where really we don't want this. And I can't speak for everybody, but for a long time I've wanted this, and oftentimes, yeah, in pretty bad, substantially bad ways. Like people I wanted, where if you asked me after, like if you even asked me, would you want to date this person? Hell no. Would you want to fuck this person? Hell yeah. And then it's like, okay, this is pretty bad. What's the common denominator here? And the guy in the video uses the term strength, which I don't think is necessarily accurate. I think it's something that comes with the ability, like it comes with confidence. That's like, no doy, right? Everybody talks about, as a guy, you gotta be confident, otherwise women don't respect you. And it's like, yeah, if you don't respect yourself, it's hard. It's not hard to, maybe it is hard. It depends on the person. Nowadays, I'm a lot better at this. I used to disrespect pretty much. Actually, no. I used to be like a pick me girl misogynist, where I would hate all women and respect men, even if they're like toxic masculinity. Which I think that issue goes around with women a lot of the time. I don't know too many women, but I know enough women to know that it is an issue. Okay, so it's hard to respect somebody, even if you want to help them. Like I know people where I'm like, I'm friends with you. I really like you as a friend, but then in some situations when you like show such a disrespect for yourself, like specifically unhelpful talking down, like talking yourself down rather than trying to improve, like a hopelessness, a feeling that the person you're with isn't going to be able to sustain themselves into the future. Like you have to make a value judgment of the morals and values you have and your worldview. How sustainable is that in the world, and how much of a, like, how not successful in terms of career, but just how likely are you to be sane, still sexy, to whatever your personal preference is, and just compatible with the rules of society, and as well as some other points in the future, right? You have to like judge this now and keep it up. So if I say I'm into some like authoritarian type, at the lowest point, you can have somebody who's into some like actual horrible dictator. And I've been in that group with people like, I don't want to name names because it's kind of embarrassing, because I don't have actually, you know what? Yeah. This might actually be nice, because I was into Mark Zuckerberg, and even though you could say like, oh, it's this like rich person cliche, you could also say at the same time, well, it's definitely not the type of like Chad stereotype that people would name thinking about like domineering, evil, dark triad men. It's just like that cunning, manipulative thing from his side, right? And it's things that I projected on top of him because when I actually watch him speak, it's like this weaselly, disgusting feeling of he's just an opportunist trying to bend over backwards for anybody who can give him more power, which at the moment currently happens to be Donald Trump, which is something I can't stand for anymore. So my limerence had to come to a pretty sudden halt at that point. But then I know realistically I would not want to spend more than a week tops with this man. Even if he showered me with all the affection in the world and all the material type of crap in the world, I could not stand him, okay? And this is one of the things where you, like, this guy in the video talks about, like, women, obviously in the super generalized way, without taking into account the sort of development that you have as a human being independently of your gender, or, like, man, woman, in-betweeny, like, whatever you are. You develop as a person from being this opportunistic asshat, and at some point come to the conclusion that, oh, yeah, I gotta make sure other people get their needs met also, not just because out of the goodness of my heart, because let's be honest, who really comes to that conclusion naturally? I think that's usually an act like moral superiority. It's just that it's like basic logic. You understand at some point the world has to be a place in which everybody has a fair chance, and otherwise, even if I'm like the rich person, at some point there's going to be people with guillotines, right? So it's like a natural mix of trying to empower yourself and others. And empowering yourself doesn't just mean abusing people below you that you can get your hands on and seeing like how much can I get away with, but also like literally the opposite of that, like building people up. Because that is what makes you strong. The ability to not get stuck on your own ego. Building people up means you can see that it'll make for a better future. It'll give you real, genuine respect that'll sustain itself over time. And at that point, I don't think you want women anymore who are so shallow and only want you for your bad boy, your massive wiener, or your bags of money, or your CEO position, and whatever. And it's like, yeah, unfortunately, those people are going to exist, just as guys are going to exist who go after some horribly abusive woman just because she's very, very stylish and pretty and has just, perfect eyeliner or whatever. It's a mix of balancing attraction and, I guess, just sustainability into the future. And it doesn't even end with the person's death. Sustainability into the future doesn't just mean I'm gonna become CEO and provide for my family only. Like, no. After a certain point of development, that's not sexy anymore. Because you understand, like, oh, even if he or she thinks that and becomes CEO and rich and awesome and I get everything, really, how long is that gonna go well for humanity until something horrible happens and fucking catapults us back into the Dark Ages because we just couldn't get our shit together and evolve as a species together? This is why the idea of what's hot is changing. And to say, oh, all women want this, or it's biology, or whatever, it doesn't work for me that way. Plus, of course, like all the individualistic crap I mentioned before. I don't know, man. It was just really, really bugging me watching that video, especially after, like a year ago, the same channel had a video uploaded about basically, including the model of spiral dynamics, which I really love, like about the development of consciousness. But it's like they made that video, but then didn't even include women in that equation, basically. Like, women don't get that right. Women don't get they just don't have the ability to evolve their consciousness and outgrow this underlying desire. It's like, I can't say for myself that I don't like a certain amount of dominance, but I also oftentimes like having that certain amount of dominance. It's like a kind of switch situation. And I have a female friend, who is that dom, and who doesn't like being dominated at all. And that's like her kind of sex life, and she goes into detail about it. So it's like, there's enough of these differences, especially nowadays. It's diversifying so much. This guy's a little bit older, so maybe it's like a generational thing. But it's just, if you just so happen to be watching this as a guy, be aware that the most important thing is that you're kind of on the level of mental development as whoever you're, like, not even just with in terms of romantically, but also around, like, friend-wise, because it's hard to properly talk to and relate with people if they're like way, way, way above or way, way, way below where you're at in your terms of like in terms of mental development. Like, it's the same way, the same thing we talk about when we want like adults and children not to date each other. Like, no doy. On one side, it's gross because they, like, kids literally have no life experience yet and can't determine for themselves like what's right and wrong. But it's the same thing with somebody, like, if let's say I'm 23, which I am, by the way, and somebody else is 23 also, but they're just at the mental development level. Like, let's use an extreme example of somebody who has, for example, Down syndrome. I would feel conflicted in dating them because I'd feel like I can't, like even if I didn't want to, I'd feel like like without even noticing, I would take advantage of that person, or I'd bend over too much in order to like try and appease their special needs to a point where they would end up manipulating me even. Like, just because I'm at a higher like mental development level and I have more ability to understand the world big picture on an abstract level, or even like with my actual involvement into embodying values and stuff, that doesn't mean I'm like immune to manipulation from lower levels. Even like sometimes it's the opposite, where the higher you go, where you're like, oh, I understand this perspective, I also understand this perspective. For a while you could even think, all perspectives kind of makes sense. So what's even telling me that like being a white supremacist is bad? And it's like, you gotta go that extra step and go, okay, being a white supremacist is just bad because it's selfish and you can make value judgments. It just puts you in the center of your politics, and that's just not a good long-term model for the world as a whole and humanity as a whole. It doesn't bring us forward. It'll lead to an unfavorable outcome for humanity. And those kind of thoughts, like, there's so much stuff that goes into what you want in a partner, other than just, do they have good boy points because they provide for me and bring me safety, and do they have bad boy points, which means I'm attracted to them physically. The thing in the video, like the one thing I do agree with, is that if there's no attraction in the first place, just doing more like good boy stuff, like I'm gonna buy her flowers, I'm gonna bring her stuff, most likely it's not gonna change the situation. That being said, it might. That's the thing. I don't want to give people false hope, because most of the time it probably won't. And if somebody says I'm not attracted to you, just stop, just move on anyway. I don't like this whole. I guess I'm the one making generalizations now, because some women like it and might change their minds. I don't know, who cares what I think? That's generalization. But the point is, I wanted to rant, and I think I'm done ranting now. People, just, if you're watching this, remember, we're fucking individuals, and we can grow up from our, like, leftover beliefs, from what we used to think is great and sexy, and at some point you realize, like, oh no, this is not all that sexy actually, I don't want this. And just, if you love someone, or if you want someone, just ask. And just ask on a person-to-person cases, be open, work on your own development. That's the real thing. Don't think, what do all women want, or what do all men want, and then become the best version of that. But develop yourself to what you want, figure out what you actually want in your partner, man, woman, something in between, what do you like, is it the cultural norm, is it not? And then find somebody who's compatible. And in that, if they end up having like complaints or demands, or you're not their type, decide if you and them can figure out some middle ground. And if you can't, you can't. If you can, you can. Fucking easy as that. What's the issue?